where she's joining us, Comrade Musa Dube. She's the secretary, deputy secretary of the ANC. So I think all of us we are here, and also we are welcome also to be with us. Then we'll allow Comrade Safe as the provincial secretary just to read the data. Then from there we'll take it from there and get the questions.
Thanks, Kabazela. Ladies and gentlemen, it feels good for us to say ladies and gentlemen with confidence. You will know that I've always raised this issue that the media industry is lagging behind the ANC in terms of gender representation and transformation. We are here going to present the outcome of the PEC Lekgotla. The ANC in KwaZulu-Natal held its PEC Lekgotla to evaluate the progress achieved in the implementation of the program of action adopted by the movement at the beginning of 2015. The PEC Lekgotla was also charged with the responsibility of consolidating the ANC's program for next year. We addressed the first issue, which is moral regeneration. As part of instilling morality and social values in our young people, the PEC Lekgotla was pleased about the success of Umkhosi Womhlanga, which was held on Saturday and Sunday. The ANC has congratulated His Majesty the King and the provincial government on such a comprehensive program, and further call on the society to continue impacting morality on the youth at all times. We believe that the issue of good behavior on young people should not just be preserved for Umhlanga, but should be daily practice for our young people. Just a slight look on balance of forces, the PEC took note of the political landscape, which is currently characterizing the province and the country as a whole. The PEC observed that this landscape is largely dominated by the politics of competition, which sees opposition parties colluding against the ANC. Such collusion is informed by nothing else but political opportunism and populism. On their own, they stand independent and separate from each other, but they collude and come together, converge against the African National Congress. If in a society you find people who claim to be on the left colluding with people who are on the right, you must know that there is a crisis in terms of the agenda that is pursued. Clearly, the opposition parties have lost the track and opted for populism and opportunism, dealing with issues not on the basis of principle, but on the basis of what makes them popular and known. As we engage on this issue of the political landscape, we need to ensure that we work with an objective analysis which provide concrete and factual realities, which are in nowadays pushed aside only to find reasons to delegitimize the liberation movement among the people, the African National Congress. These attacks contribute no fresh and meaningful thought on our nation's outlook. Safe to say that they prove that our ideological opponents are at cul-de-sac in terms of feeling the pulse of the nation. At no time in the recent history did our country need, more urgently than now, maximum cooperation of all sectors to deal with the imperative challenges that faces the country. These challenges include fighting poverty, unemployment, crime, and social ills. Only serious commitment and joint programs and campaigns by all sectors will see South Africa defeating these challenges. The cooperation between government, labor, political parties, the civil society, in particular the religious sector and the academia, is required more than ever before to take South Africa forward. We're mentioning these components because these are components that were very critical in bringing an end to the system of apartheid colonialism and ushered in the democracy which came with the ascendancy of the African National Congress to government in the country. The continuing tendency of working in an antagonistic manner between the public sector and the economic sector is one of the things that derail economic growth. In this regard, the public sector in government in particular is seen to be leading on the creation of jobs. Yet the private sector is doing very less in that regard. But at the center of that also within the public sector is the role of the unions. We believe, and we will want to concur with the president, that the private sector and the unions should work hard to ensure that there is a push on protecting jobs and creating new jobs for our country. If you will look on all research and index that are available, jobs that are created in the recent period are created in the public sector. And we believe that coming together of all sectors will help us to move forward on governance and service delivery, which was the main issue of the Lekgotla. The PEC Lekgotla received and engaged on political overview presented by the provincial chairperson, Anckzn. The PEC further received presentations on the state of governance and the progress on service delivery, the state of finances in the province, and the presentation on basic services, in particular water and electricity. You will know challenges we are facing in terms of water in particular, and there are interventions that are being done to address that. And some have avoided to appreciate the reality that the province in particular is faced by drought and seek to apportion the blame and politicize the issue. You know, if you politicize natural issues, that there is drought, and you think that drought is created by someone, and then it begins to show. That's why we started by saying that there is a high level of populism in dealing with issues, which seek to negate facts, undermine facts, and opt for populism and political posturing. Having been informed by the above fact and after thorough engagement during commissions, the PEC Lekgotla has resolved on the following. One, the ANC remain committed to providing basic services to all people of the province and will continue working hard to ensure that that the people's life are transformed. Having been appraised of fiscal challenges facing the country and the impact on the province, the Lekgotla agreed to consciously apply progressive cost-cutting measures, which will be applied in a manner that does not compromise the delivery of services to our people. These cost-cutting measures will focus on reducing government expenditure on non-essential items. This should start by doing away with VIP services, such as catering for VIPs and holding rooms during government public events, trips that goes to other countries, which you will see a lot of people going to one country for one activity. And we believe on all of those activities, there must be a cut. We believe some of items that are presented as cut-costing measures should not just be applied now, but should be applied continuously as practice and norm of saving in the government. The government should continue reducing its spending at a managerial level and invest more in lower levels, which are at the cold face of service delivery, where people interact directly on a daily basis. We believe that investing on provincial offices does not help us. The investment in terms of resources must go to offices that are at a lower level, where there is an interaction with people. Offices, police stations, schools, clinics, rather than investing at a management level, and you resource your management, you better resource those levels that are directly interacting with the people. The PEC Lekgotla welcomed and accepted the approach of the Departments of Economic Development and Tourism, Agriculture, Environmental Affairs that target the previously marginalized sections of our society. This needs to extend to deliberate efforts to create new African industrialists in the province. The issue of economic distribution was discussed at length, and were of a view that those who were marginalized, in particular Africans, are still lagging behind, and it is an issue that must be addressed directly. The PEC, Lekgotla, urged the government to establish an economy policy review panel which will investigate and establish how beneficiation patterns are distributed in the province since we have taken over in 2004. On economic development, the PEC Lekgotla has once again reaffirmed that our country is a developmental state, which should ensure that there is efficiency at all times. The PEC reaffirmed that government must continue to build the capacity of the state to deliver rather than outsource services. This means that government, through the Department of Public Works, should stop renting offices and start building government precinct, which will house departments in our regions and further accommodate even local government. It should establish a construction company to focus on construction work rather than always outsource these services to service providers. All departments and municipalities should stop outsourcing services that government can provide on its own and build the technical capacity to deliver instead of continuous outsourcing. And this is one decision that we're going to push going forward, that we must reduce on outsourcing but build the internal capacity. And that also includes build a capacity to deliver within the state. It includes also ensuring that public servants on their own are encouraged and skilled to deliver. We need public servants who will respond effectively and efficiently to the demands and the expectations of our people. As part of reversing the legacy of apartheid and colonial system, which still persistently affect the country and find expression through poverty, unemployment, and inequality. The ANC government needs to engage seriously on how to alter property relations in the country. Without negating the principle of a mixed economy, the ANC should ensure that any company that trades through minerals and any raw material in South Africa should build its plant in the country, and no raw material should leave the country without being processed into final product. The ANC will ensure that it remains with the people, deals with and resolve the problems that are affecting our people in this regard. We believe that part of what will boost industrialization is to ensure that we stop this issue of minerals of this country being taken out of South Africa. And we're not saying that we put in a council that within the next 3 years, all companies that are trading in South Africa should have plants and produce everything in South Africa, and no raw material and get taken of in the exorbitant prices. The PEC has also resolved that the KZN local councils should move to executive committees and change the mayoral systems, have executive committees, which will enhance speedy coordination of services to the people. Not a single municipality in the province has a mayoral system, and we must address that. On local government elections, the PEC is pleased with the progress that is taking place on preparations for the local government elections. Our election structures are in place and functioning, and we are ready for intensive campaigning. The PEC appreciate that the NEC has resolved, among others, on 60% retention of councillors, which will help to ensure continuity. The list process will start at the end of October and last until, will proceed until the end of November this year. That is branch level, and thereafter you will have list committees and list conferences. On eThekwini Regional Conference, before you ask us this subject, on eThekwini Regional Conference, preparations for the conference have resumed, and these include the reconvening BGMs and the political education process. The conference will be held in October as per the instruction of the national leadership. As part of dealing with ill discipline, the PEC has adopted rules which contain issues that will lead to summarily suspending offenders whenever necessary. The offenses in this regard include distributing weapons in the meetings, insult in meetings, or singing derogatory songs. Given the work that is done by the PEC and the NEC, the PEC is confident that the conference will proceed as planned. On the provincial conference is supposed to be held in May 2016 because the term of office is 4 years. And this period will coincide with the local government elections. The PEC has then resolved to convene the provincial conference before the end of November 2015. In conclusion, the PEC Lekgotla also sent its condolences to the families of Judge Squia and the family of Mr. Roland Mqwebu, who were both buried last Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nopala. Thank you with the presentation. I hope now we are prepared to get questions and also to receive questions if there are any questions. It's not compulsory to ask questions. We've got one here, two. We've got, can we get the first question from
Joe Story from ANA? I just wanted to clarify, firstly, on terms of the regional conference, are you able to actually give us a specific date and a venue at this stage? That's my first question. Mine just that the provincial conference, there's only a need to hold it by May 2016, but you're actually going to hold it in November. I'm just asking that for clarity. And then my third question relates to the issue of that was discussed by the PEC in terms of factories having to set up plants in South Africa that they must produce. Did the PEC look at the problem that comes with that? In other words, that you have cheap imports of finished goods, and that those plants may ultimately not actually be profitable.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
I think I'm covered, but I want to check if you have specific dates on board content. The RX, the Ethereum Regional Conference, and
At the provincial. Oh, okay. Yes.
The issue of cost-cutting measures is not new. In fact, the provincial treasurer has been always talking about cost-cutting measures and also emphasizing on government department limiting on their expenditure. Like we're talking about the bottled water and we're talking about many other issues, but you still go to government function issues, such things. And what is it that you intend to do to ensure that the government adheres to the calls for cost-cutting measures?
Okay. No, thanks.
Maybe let me take the last one first, the one of cost-cutting measures. If you look at the government spend since the last time, you would see that there has been the government has been having a positive cash balance for all these 5 years, and now 7 years we've been having a cash balance. showing clearly that the cost-cutting measures are working. For instance, what the Lekgotla emphasized is that the same should be for municipalities, because municipalities have not adopted any cost-cutting measures unless there is maybe intervention, or there's something, or there's support from provincial government that forces them to do the same. But the Lekgotla further tasked the Monitoring and Evaluation Committee of the ANC to ensure that it monitors that the cost-cutting measures are adhered to. Bala spoke about the delegations, that instead of having 5-7 people in a delegation, you should have a minimum people going, maybe 2 or 3 instead of 7 and 10 people going for delegations, because that's quite costly, depending on the nature of that delegation. Indeed, again, the Lekgotla stressed that instead of, as Nobala was saying, instead of looking at outsourcing things, usually, we have a good case where the provincial government now owns its own conference center in Durban. And most of the meetings and conferences of the government are now held in the conference center. And then the Lekgotla then stressed that the government should continue with that, having other conference facilities, having its own buildings, so that we don't rent. We cut down on the cost of renting. We also rationalize, ensure that the frontline staff are more capacitated than the management, because you'll find that in many instances when you cut, you would freeze maybe the post, but the Lekgotla is saying, look at the frontline staff and prioritize the frontline staff and show capacitated there than being heavy on the top, and that would also include having our own maybe tents and sound system and all those things, including the construction company, as Nobala was saying, so that many things are done internally, and you save with the outsourcing or the consultants, the use of consultants, and therefore you would again, I think the Lekgotla was enhancing the measures that are already there, which have already bear fruit in terms of savings. You would know that these fiscal issues arise from the fact that KZN budget was cut due to the census results, and further impact of the salary negotiations and other measures that have put pressure. But the province is still on the positive, and the ANC is saying continue being on the positive, because we want a healthy book balance to ensure that we prioritize service delivery. I think the issue of beneficiation, once more, it is about, again, the capacity of the state to can deliver, as opposed to outsourcing things. We have a lot of mining that gets done in various areas, whether it's sand mining or coal mining or any other raw materials. And we're saying those, we should have those factories here in KwaZulu-Natal or in South Africa, so that you don't have to take this raw material out and therefore losing more jobs, because there's a lot of machinery, there's a lot of sophistication, and these products come back more expensive for the consumption. So the levels of export and import, we're saying we need to improve our government in terms of beneficiation and ensuring that local people benefit from ensuring that we have the industrialization in many of our towns visible, so as to create more jobs, but also sustainable jobs.
Thanks. On the issue of conferences, we are working on logistics. The Etegwini will be held in October as per the directive of the national leadership, and the provincial conference will be held in November. We will confirm actual dates once we've finalized logistics. The question of logistics, it's about venues, availability of venues and all of that. So we're working on that. We will have the conferences on this period. One, October for the region, and then November for the province. The issue of encouraging or trying to ensure industrialization and put emphasis that no raw material should leave South Africa. We take into cognizance the point of the cheap labor and import, but we are not going to succumb on that because it creates jobs for the people. It creates jobs, and it is one of many proposals that we're going to be presenting as we go to the National General Council. We're just bringing these because we're finalizing, but there are a number of issues that relate to land, that relate to industrialization, which we will be presenting to the NGC. At the end of the month, September, we'll have a General Council, which will be finalizing our submission to the National General Council. Next week, this coming weekend, we've got a PEC political school, which will be just deliberating on nothing else but documents that have been released. And thereafter, we'll have a number of forums where we'll be interacting on issues that are part of documents going to the NGC. So we will have this engagement and make comprehensive submission at the end of the month in our General Council.
And would appreciate that the media as well engage on these policy discussions so that we are all informed, but also we are part of moving South Africa forward in terms of the concrete submissions that you feel that the country needs for us to can be able to have a good country where our communities do have the services that they need to have. So Nobala is talking about various platforms, various discussions that we are going to be having these policy documents. And I'm stressing this because sometimes you would hear the media writing on issues without having understood exactly what is it that the ANC seeks to achieve with some of the policy positions that we're putting forward.
Okay, let's start 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, wait, 5, 6, then will be number 7. So let's start.
Just to unpack on the issue of difference in terms of job creation between the states and the private sector, can maybe the leaders unpack for us that what jobs maybe they feel the private sector should create for our communities, and why there seems to be a different approach between the states and private sector when it comes to job creation?
Did PGC talk at all, or are there any proposals coming from the province around any constitutional changes when it comes to the NGC, specifically around terms of office, etc.? I mean, has there been a debate when seeing some kind of debate outside the ANC around, especially after the Youth League outcome this weekend, of a kind of discussions around perhaps issues of a third term? Is there any discussion around that? And can you explain what this 3 fingers thing means that's been thrown around by you or appeared over the weekend?
Where is that?
Okay,
Sure.
that person.
I just wanted to check on the point of in regards to the conferences. It took almost a year to have the Etegwini Regional Conference takes place. I mean, do you think you will have enough time to have the provincial conference after April, after October?
I just need some figures when it comes to savings. I mean, Mamos has talked about in the previous 7 years they've made a lot of success in terms of saving. Can she bring it into figures? How much did the government save in terms of through cost cuttings? And another thing, we are talking about the preventing raw materials from leaving the country and opening industries in the country. And do we have enough? Did they talk? Did the Lekgotla talk about creating human resources in order to be able to carry on the job that should have been carried outside, or we are going to see the foreign nationals from China and other countries coming to South Africa to do those jobs? And the last question, we also talk about the centers, the conference centers, government conference centers. Can she please give me the number of those centers, and if possible, where are they?
When does the ANC envisage the implementation of the right productive system in the country? Do you expect it to be implemented after the 2016 local government election?
Okay. Yeah.
My question is in mining. I would like to get what is the position of the ANC, the province, in terms of mining in the province, because we read some outcries from the communities living where the minings are happening at this stage. What's the stand of the ANC in terms of that?
I've got two questions. At the recent provincial COSATU meeting, that was Congress that was held here, the chairman of the party stressed to the COSATU members that they shouldn't seek major salary increases, and I see that that's also a theme of President Zuma recently, although not in this province. Wage increases pushed by your alliance partners, and obviously a number of the members of the alliance are also part of ANC. This must surely have come up because there must be some sort of potential conflict of interest, or is these guys promised we'll go back to our union members and say, calm it down. And then in terms of the delegations, I found it very interesting that you say these delegations should not be 7 people, but only 3 people. We've just had the recent saga where we had 7 people go to Auckland, despite the outcry that it should only be 2 people. Can you comment on that, or would you be speaking to Comrade James? Thank you.
Well, maybe with the last one, it's true. We have taken note of that, and that is why I think the emphasis was that probably at the provincial level, you have guidelines or regulation and circulars that have gone to everybody to ensure that you adhere to the cost cutting English word. So we are stressing that perhaps there has to be that monitoring that we do, that there are no elaborate delegations and other things where we can cut, we need to cut. Up to now, the local government level has been, of course, we have been talking about that, but there has not been any enforcement, and we're saying there has to be enforcement from the ANC side and monitoring that those things are happening. Probably you were talking about the how much we've been able to save. Up to now, we had more than $1 billion of cushion that we've been having as a province to assist in case of any unbudgeted for instances, but also we've been able to use such to go to service delivery so that whatever we save, it goes directly to the to services. In fact, you would see from how the province was able to assist or is able now with the program because of such savings that have been realized, and the unbudgeted for costing is then able to be cushioned from such savings that we've been able to achieve. Did Lekgotla talk about constitution? I think it's part of the NGC discussion document. We are going to be discussing what does it means, our constitutional democracy, and talking to the enhancement of the state and the capacity of the state to interpret our policies to actionable measures in terms of the NDP targets that we've set for ourselves. So that's what we're looking at there. We're not just looking at the constitution, whether it must change or not, but we're looking at what does it mean in terms of the challenges that are being faced by the state, but also how do we use the constitution to enhance the state's capacity to can deliver what the constitution say we need to deliver. I think Nobala would comment on the other ones, but on conferences, we are, as Nobala said, we've already started the preparations for the conference, for all the conferences, including the NGC, and the plan is already rolling. We having ongoing operations that are taking place both at the regional and the provincial level, and we will be having that PGCs which seeks to ensure that there are these policy documents and the preparations that we are doing. So indeed, we are on course in terms of the timetable that we've set for ourselves, and we do not see any problems arising from the timetable that we've set for ourselves.
So thanks. Let me start with the questions from PD, so that because this was the last round of questions, so I must answer even the questions you've not raised, which are raised indirectly. We draw no conclusion from the signs which happened in the Youth League conference. We discuss issues in the ANC, not through signs. We discuss issues openly, debate through processes. Even the Youth League itself, I think they've clarified that they were not expressing any particular view about that. I believe all of you, the history of the Youth League yesterday, were speaking that the priority of the Youth League for now, it's not on leadership issues, but it's on the issues of rebuilding the ANC Youth League. And I think he was clear on that. So that does not represent anything to us. And also to answer that question, because I know there is a follow-up, the issues of leadership are not discussed through science, they are discussed through the eye of the needle, and they are discussed in the meetings of the ANC. Now, we don't want to engage on that issue in a way that is just taken from actually not the real expression on the matter. The issue of the constitution and the third term, no, we've not expressed ourselves as yet on the matter. We will discuss that when we get to the discussion of document and the PGC. It will only be that time. But has never been, in terms of the government, we know that there is no need of reviewing the constitution of the country. And we have said that even before, there was no need of that. In terms of the ANC constitution, when you go to conference, you discuss the constitution of the ANC ongoing. And I don't think the ANC constitution has terms. It doesn't have terms. Now, the question of terms when it comes to ANC constitution doesn't arise, but it arises in terms of the country. The ANC constitution, which I believe it's also the resolution, is that anyone who's a president of the ANC should be the president of the country. And that is the policy of the ANC on these issues. When it comes to issues of mayoral committee, we believe that the change must take place immediately. 2016 is a time frame for that. However, we will do everything necessary to go through processes that are required, because you don't just resolve and pronounce yourself and then you think things have changed. You need to go through processes, internal processes, to take that into policy. Two questions, the private sector and job creation. I think if you go through research, you will find that the only sector that is creating jobs is the public sector. The rest, the private sector is shedding jobs. And the point is that it is easy for the private sector to just retrench people. And we're calling for an engagement. From our beginning, we said, there is no point in the recent history, no time in the recent history, where we feel that there is a need for cooperation between the government, the labor, the private sector. There is a need for maximum cooperation and understand the challenges that are facing not only the country, but the world, because this is the recession that is affecting the whole world. And therefore, it should not be easy for one partner to be so sectorial and act in a way that defend the sector, the interest of one sector at the expense of others. The issue of trying to emphasize on industrialization, we know that there is a need of building human resource skills in the country. That's why I was saying in a period of at least 3 months or 3 years, we should go through a process of building required skills to avoid a situation where everything that is mined in South Africa is taken outside the country and come back without people enjoying an opportunity of getting work. So those are propositions that we will be taking to the National General Council. Salary increase and the issue of Auckland. I think let's start on that issue. One, as the PEC, we congratulate Ethico for winning and that they will be hosting the 2022. We believe that that is a progress, not only for eThekwini, but it's a progress for the province as a whole. A number of people have expressed views, different views. There will always be different views on issues, but we want to congratulate them. And of course, the provincial government have pledged that they will be working. It has pledged that it will be working with eThekwini to ensure that these games are a success. Salary increase for workers, in particular in the public service, it's an issue which is under discussion within the government. Not only for workers, even for public representatives. Those issues are being discussed, that we must find a way of handling them together. And that's why we're emphasizing cooperation rather than a sectorial interest. The last issue, mining in the province, the approach is that where applicable, the state company should deal with the issues of, should venture into mining. And I believe we know that there is a state-owned company, which, however, it does not mean that we've closed space for the private sector on mining. We emphasize on the issues of beneficiation, the development of communities around areas where those mines are located.
I'm sorry, maybe the issue of conference centers. Yes, we do have a conference center in Mayville. If you have not seen it, it's a huge conference center. But we also have one in Pietermaritzburg, as well as another one here in Durban at the training academy that's also being used for government activities. But that's the issue is that the government must continue investing on its own buildings, on its own, instead of renting, because that would also save on cost. I mean, we're looking at everything that would ensure that you do not have, people in a huge offices and with unnecessary space not being utilized. You've got to maximize every resource that we have so that we save on cost by not renting, by not hiring, but use state's own capacity. But that needs the skilling of the proper people and skilling of those various entities that are charged with the responsibility of supporting government's work in that.
No, thanks very much, and thank you very much, and thanks. My questions, and thanks from Unobara, the Provincial Secretary, Comrade Sessions Galala, and thanks from Deputy Secretary, Comrade sometimes some of you, but we're MEC, and she's the Deputy Secretary, she's here. Thank you very much. But those who want to take questions, to take interviews, then we can arrange that even after this meeting. Thank you. I know